Hey, I lost 90 of my 180 pounds through tracking. So today I'm going to give you 6 tips that help me stay on track and lose the weight. And I lost those 90 pounds in 16 months. Hey, good morning. Something I've talked about and just something I recommend whenever somebody first starts, their weight loss journey. My first thing that I say to do is just start to eat clean. Eat meat, eat vegetables. You can even add fruit if you'd like to. But try to cut out the the processed stuff. The stuff that when you look at it, it's not how it would be in nature. So a can of peaches that has sugar and syrupy, that's not exactly how it's found in nature. I personally, when I first started, was trying to keep my ingredients down to 5 or below. You don't have to do that, but that's just something I was doing. But, if you're trying to get over all the, I had a lot of, I come to this from a binge eating or disorder, a binge. My binges would be, just so you know, on a Friday, I would stop at Burger King and I would pick up a double Whopper, large fries, and a shake. And that would be my supper. Then I would, and I would go to, that was on my way home from, I ate that for my supper most nights. But then for the weekend, before that, I would have gone to Walmart and I would have picked up a tub of salsa, a tub of sour cream, a jar, at least 1 jar of queso. I would pick up 2 family-size bags of the tortilla chips. I would pick up 1 to 2 family-size bags of Doritos. I would pick up 1 or 2 cans of Pringles. I would pick up at least 2 family-size bags of some type of candy. Typically, it would be like a Dove chocolate and then some other like a fruity kind of candy, but always something that's unwrapped because I didn't want to take the time to unwrap things unless it was chocolate. I would pick that. Oh, and a couple pizzas. I would usually pick up 2 or 3 stuffed crust pizzas. So I would pick that up on a Friday night and it would be gone by Sunday evening. Living that kind of life, it led me to 340 pounds on my scale. And I was big, I was uncomfortable, I was cranky, I was depressed, just a lot of things. I had a lot of health issues. So coming from that background, I had to learn how to cook. I had to learn how to eat and how to cook things. So for me, I found a website with recipes at the time, and it was free at the time. I think it costs now, but it was dietdoctor.com. And I was just needing recipes. So I spent the first 2 months of changing my eating I spent the first 2 months going from eating what I was to just learning how to cook. That website, their recipes were a lot of whole things. So, meat, vegetables, so all the things. While I was doing that, I had spent several months, about 6-8 months, 2 years prior to that. I started in 2017, the first go around, but I broke my ankle and anyway, so I gained the weight that I lost at that time back. So I had already experienced and dabbled in keto, but at that time it was called low carb, high fat, in like what I found, the videos I found. So then in 2019, whenever I was getting started, it was the fall. And so that's whenever I was learning how to actually cook the foods and actually learning about foods in general. So there was no tracking. And then I went to carnivore. And so I didn't track because it was frowned upon at that time in the carnivore community. So they've changed since then, but that's fine. So I've stalled the last 8 months of my 22 months of carnivore. And so in those last, it was 7-8 months. Anyway, in those last several months, I was getting to know other ways of eating. And that's whenever I found Kim Howerton and a little more meat-focused keto approach. Kim has a channel on YouTube today still. I used to go to her lives and I would ask her lots of questions because I had spent almost 2 years in a carnivore world where everything was, oh, vegetables are trying to kill you. You got to eat nose to tail. All these things that were ingrained into my mind. So I spent a lot of time in her lives asking questions and picking her brain. And I felt like she was very intelligent, and you know, she looks at the science. And so you do your own research, by the way. I'm a nurse, but I am not your nurse. So you do what's best for you. But in my conversations with her, I don't know what tracker app she used, but we got to talking about tracking macros and protein and all that. And again, you do your research and find what macros are best for you. But at that stage, I had to learn how to track. And so that's why I am a believer in tracking, because once I started tracking, the weight really started coming off. And so in, I think it's like 16, 17 months, I lost 90 some odd pounds. And that was because I was tracking. So what I wanted to do today was talk to you a little bit about tracking, but I just wanted to add a little background so now you know how beneficial tracking can be. I personally use the app Chronometer. There are so many apps out there, I can't even name them all. So you find the app that's going to work for you and your brain. What I like personally for me about Chronometer is in the target section, it lets me say, okay, well, I feel like fiber from vegetables is, when I'm not eating this way, but fiber in my cabbage, fiber is not what made me 340 pounds. However, fiber from all the sugary foods is what would make me gain weight. So fiber from all the flours, and so a lot of the fiber is, as Dr. Berry says, it's just sawdust. There's fiber in sawdust. That's what Metamucil is. So what I like about Chronometer personally is that I can set my targets, and I can determine what my whether I want to do total carbs or if I want to do net carbs. Net carbs, it allows you to check. Yes, I don't want sugar alcohols to count against me. I don't want fructose to count against me. I don't want allulose to count against me. So you can adjust that. Now, you can determine what is best for your needs and for yourself. But anyway, so once you figure out what app you're going to use, just use it. Just use it. That's it. And it doesn't have to be as daunting as one would think. Like, this one has a favorite section. So you can, plug in, and most apps I'm sure have a favorite section. And you can put in the foods that you like. You can build recipes. So if you eat a salad, I'm just going to say you eat a salad every day, set your bowl on the scale. And if you're meal prepping 7 for the week, set your bowl on the scale and say, okay, well, I want XYZ, this and this and that, and build your salad on the scale and plug that into a recipe if that's what you're going to use every time. And then therefore, all you have to do is either plug that in once and carry it over from every single day, or make a recipe that is salads and then use that as the recipe. So that's what I do. I just carry things over from day to day to day. So what I thought I would tell you about, and then build your stuff on the scale. So you're about to cook some meat, set your paper plate on the scale, set that ribeye on top of that paper plate. That's 1.25 pounds. All right. Well, plug in 1.25 pounds, or if you're going to divide that up into 2 meals for the day, just split it up. It doesn't have to be exact, because Here's the thing about tracking. It's like Sherry Morgan and I were talking about. A ribeye is not the same. Some have more marbling, some has less marbling, some has more fat, some has less fat. Some, everything, it's not perfect, okay? Your tracking is not perfect, but you're getting a general idea, and that's good enough for me. I don't obsess about it. So like if I look at this at the end of the day and my goal is 1,600 calories and I'm 1,700 calories, I'm not going to cry. Maybe this steak had less fat. Maybe it was whatever. So I don't stress about that because my understanding is that I think it's 3,000 calories. If you're in a 3,000 calorie deficit for the week, that's when you lose a pound. But don't quote me on that. Again, I ain't into the whole science thing. But my first tip for tracking would be build your plate on a scale. Set your plate on a scale. And whether you want to plug it right in or whether you want to write it down. I actually had created, and I haven't needed it for a little while right now while I'm carnivore, but I actually found it's like a plastic sleeve that you can put something inside of, and then you can write on it with your dry erase marker. So you could actually have written on some paper all the things that you like. So you can have your cabbage, your tomatoes, your onions, your pork, your chicken, your ground beef, whatever you're eating. You can have your GU sauce, your barbecue sauce, your cheese, all of the things you can have written or typed out on this list and slide it in a plastic sleeve. And then with that dry erase marker, every day, sit your plate on there. Today, oh yeah, I got cabbage, so this much. Oh yeah, I got tomatoes, this much. Oh, well, I didn't use GU's teriyaki sauce, but I did use the sugar raised barbecue sauce. So you can just scribble them all down, and then you don't have to think. And then when you're done, just plug it in. So my first tip is just build your plate or your bowl on top of a scale so you can track. Also, weigh your meat before you cook it. Sometimes, you are losing some of the meat and the juices if you don't pour it back over your meat. So what? It's okay. Again, it doesn't have to be exact. So weigh your meat raw if you can. And if you don't, then weigh it cooked. But whatever you choose, be consistent with it. So like whenever I was doing, whenever I was lost that 93 pounds, I was weighing my meat cooked. And a lot of the apps, there'll be something that says cooked weight. So that's okay too. But you're just trying to get a consistency. So be consistent. That's another tip. Be consistent. Just get it in there. Because if you don't weigh and you don't track, how are you going to know what you need to change? And, it's very eye-opening when you start plugging your stuff in. Because for those 2 years of carnivore, I was eating about 2 pounds of beef a day. And I was adding fat. And so that was, we're talking 2,500 calories. So that's very important, is just weigh and track. And then after, a while, when you hit a stall, that's whenever you can say, maybe this much calories I could do a little less than. So how about I drop it by an ounce of meat at my lunch and supper? That's it. An ounce of meat, that's about 100-ish calories. So it's really, you're dropping maybe about 150, 200 calories. So just drop it by an ounce. That's 28 grams. That's just like a tablespoon. That's not serious. So, if you look at it that way, of you're collecting data, and don't beat yourself up when you have a day where you eat something you shouldn't, track it anyway. It's okay. Just track it. That's the most important thing, is you're collecting data. It's not about beating yourself up. It's not about judging yourself. You're just collecting data. That's all. That's how you got to look at the scale. You're collecting data. Sometimes your body's doing something we don't know about and our weight goes up. Sometimes we're just, we're not retaining any fluid, so our weight goes down. So it's the same thing with this. You're just collecting data. So just change your mindset about the tracking, and it's just data. It's not even 100% accurate data because of the fat in your meal. So that's all. So, but once you have the information, then you know what you can do with it. So I could never say, people ask me, what calories should I start at? I don't know. So what you can do is, if you're about to start your weight loss journey, start tracking. Just start tracking if you want to go that route, or just start eating healthy. First, start eating healthy. And then when you hit a stall, after you've been eating whole foods for a while and you hit a stall, then start tracking what you're eating. And then you've got the data right there. And if you're at 2,000 calories, try, like I said, knocking an ounce of meat off of 2 meals a day. Or if you're not meat heavy, so say you're vegan, I don't know what vegans eat for their stuff, but then knock off 150, 200 calories off for the next couple weeks and see what happens. So it's all about your body, how your body reacts, and learning your body. I hate the saying, it's not the destination, it's the journey. I hate it, but there is learning and growth in their journey. And that's what it's about, learning your body and what your body needs. So by learning, okay, so whenever I drop it by 100 calories, my scale moves. All right, cool, let me do that. Or by dropping it 200 calories, the scale moves. So that's what it's about, is learning your body and just tracking. So yeah, I just wanted to drop that on you today and just give you a few tips about weight loss and growing in your journey. Is just track. That's the biggest thing I could say, is when you start having stalls, just track. I guess I should also include a little bit about tracking itself. Sorry, I didn't think about that. But I start off by the things that are a non-negotiable thing of what I'm going to have every day. So like my coffee, and I use the Splenda creamer. Don't judge me. You build your own stuff the way you want it. And then I have my Torani coffee syrup, and I use a half cup of Fairlife skim milk. I also, throughout the day, I have some, in my afternoon coffee, I have a little bit of I make my own homemade electrolytes. If you want to see how I do it, it's in the description of this video, but I use chocolate electrolytes that I make. So I plug that in. Then at work, I use some more creamer or syrup. I also use some of the powdered creamer. Then at supper time, I have 1 can of Zevia with my unflavored electrolytes. I have 1 keto chow for my creamy. And in the evening time, I give my dogs each a little squirt of the whipped cream, the kind. So I go, 1 for you, 1 for you, 1 for you, and 1 for me. So I plug in 2 of those. So that's kind of my non-negotiable things that are going to carry over every single day. So once you have that figured out and you have an idea of how much you want your calories to be, then you go from there. So my bare bones, my necessary and non-negotiable stuff, that calories is 256 calories, 34 protein, 15 total carbs, and 7.9 fat. So what that does is that allows me to say, okay, I want to read around 1,620 calories. I know I have a ribeye in there, and it's about 1 pound. I'm just going to say that for this conversation. So let's say, so I'm going to cook it, and I'm going to have that for my lunch and supper. I'm going to split it up. So then I go to my tracker app, and I can put RIBEYE. Okay. And let's say it's, so four servings of 4 ounces, so 16 ounces. So 1,160 is how much that is, how many calories and that. So that brings my calories to 1416 for today. Okay. All right. I'm still, like I said, 1,600 is what I have plugged in. So I'm like, okay, so I have a little about less than 200 calories to play with. So I'm like, okay, so if I have half of a steak at lunch, then, or at lunch, and half of a steak for supper, how about I add in eggs? So I could, in theory, have, let's put 2 eggs. So it'd be 1 egg at lunch and 1 egg at supper. Okay, that gets me at 1,500 calories. Well, I want a little more than that today. I don't quite 1,600 because I'm working my way down to 1,600. So what if I say, okay, let's do 4 eggs. Okay, so 4 eggs. So by adding 4 eggs, that makes me 1,726 calories. So that gets me closer because, again, I'm weaning my calories down. I'm not just dropping from where I was. So now if you are not weaning, you could plug in 3 eggs. So say you're like, all right, no, I want to be real. I want to do this. I want to do 3 eggs. Let's see what 3 eggs gets. 1,650 calories when 1,620 was the goal. So hang on. So now you've got your calories and you started with your base food and you were able to carry it over from day to day to day. And then you were able to say, okay, well, today I've got a ribeye, and you were able to build your calories based off what you want to eat. So say you're like, yeah, I don't want a ribeye. That's too highfalutin for me. All right, so let's take that ribeye off, delete. Let's take the eggs off and delete. Let's get us back to our bare bones. And let's say you say, yeah, no, but I do have some 80-20 ground beef. So, all right, 80-20 ground beef. That's good. Get that put in here. 80-20. Because maybe you're thinking, you know what? I think I want some burgers today. So maybe you say, I'm going to have 2 burgers, two servings, which is 4 ounces. So I'm going to have 2 burgers at lunch and 2 burgers at supper. So let's plug in 4 burgers. Alrighty, let's add those to here. So just for a pound, we'll just say 1 pound of burger of 80-20 is 1,404 calories. Well, you're still 200 below. So you're like, you know what? I'm not carnivore, girl. I want to add in I'm not going to go through all the salad stuff, but I want to add in some tomatoes. So I will add tomato. Okay, and you're like 100 grams. I don't know what that is. So you say 100 grams of tomatoes. That's 18 calories, okay? And then you're like, yeah, but on my burgers, I want me some ketchup. So let's plug in some G. Hughes ketchup. And you're like, okay, I dropped it on the scale and I've got 2 servings, which is 30-ish grams. All right. So you're still at 1,400 and something. So that just gives you an idea of, okay, these are the bare bones that I want. And this is what I'm looking for. You're still at 1,400. So you might say, well, but for supper, I do want, I don't know, what is something I have on here? Cheese. All right, I want some cheddar, some cheddar cheese. I want two slices of cheese. I'm just putting that on there. And you're like, okay. So I'm going to have some tomato. I'm going to have some ketchup. I'm going to have some cheese added to my burgers twice today. So you know what that macro gets you? 1,650 calories when your goal was 1,620. So you're within 30 calories. But then everything is your proteins 129, your total carbs is 20, and your fat is 116. So that's how I build recipes in my tracker. Start with the non-negotiables, figure out what meat I've got, figure out how much I can have for the day, and I plug that in there. And then from there, you can add in your extra things. So, all right, I hope this helps. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out and holler at me. All right, bye.